Two identical 2019 Silverados. Same trim, same 5.3-liter Ecotec 3, same mileage, bought 3 weeks apart from the same dealer. One customer ran nothing but 87 octane for 6 years. The other paid an extra 40 to 60 cents per gallon for premium the entire time because his brother-in-law told him it would protect the engine. I have serviced both of these trucks since day one, and I just pulled the maintenance files to settle this once and for all. What I found is going to save half of you real money, and it is going to make the other half of you feel a lot better about the choice you already made. Let's get into it. I want to start with what GM actually says because almost nobody reads it. Open the owner's manual for any 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 Silverado, and it tells you flat out that regular unleaded with a posted octane rating of 87 or higher is recommended, not acceptable in a pinch. Recommended. GM engineered the compression ratio, the knock sensors, and the fuel injection timing on this engine around 87 octane gas from the factory. That is not a corner they cut to save money. That is the spec. The only Silverado engine that actually wants premium is the 6.2-liter V8, where GM recommends 93 octane to hit the full 420 horsepower rating, though even that engine will run on 87 without damage. If you are driving around with the 5.3-liter, which covers the overwhelming majority of Silverados on the road, you have been paying a premium tax for nothing your engine asked for. So here is where the two trucks come in. Truck one belongs to a contractor named Ray. He bought his Silverado brand new, read the sticker on the fuel door, and never touched anything but 87 octane in 6 years and 118,000 miles. Truck 2 belongs to his neighbor, a guy named Felix, who works at the same job site. Felix ran 93 octane premium the entire time because he was convinced it would keep his engine cleaner and make it last longer. Same job site, same driving conditions, same amount of towing behind both trucks. I have every service record for both vehicles going back to the first oil change. Here is what I found when I pulled Ray's data. Compression testing across all 8 cylinders came back within 3 psi of factory specification. No knock retard was logged on the scan tool, meaning the knock sensors never had to pull timing to compensate for the fuel. Oil analysis at 100,000 miles showed normal wear metals across the board with nothing elevated. The AFM cylinder deactivation system, the same system I've seen cause lifter failures on other 5.3-liter trucks, was functioning exactly as designed with no lifter tick. Fuel economy averaged 16.8 miles per gallon combined over 6 years based on his own fill-up logs. Total fuel cost over 118,000 miles at 87 octane pricing and using historical average prices in his region came out to roughly $14,200. Now Felix's truck compression test also within spec with all 8 cylinders healthy. No knock retard logged, which makes sense because premium fuel gives the ECU more headroom before it needs to pull timing, not less. Oil analysis also clean, nothing elevated. AFM system functioning normally. Fuel economy averaged 17.1 miles per gallon combined, a difference so small it falls inside the margin of error you'd expect from 2 different drivers on 2 different days. Total fuel cost over the same distance at premium pricing came out to roughly $16,900. That is a difference of about $2,700 for a 0.3 miles per gallon improvement that most drivers would never even notice on a dashboard readout. Let that sit for a second. Both engines are mechanically identical after 6 years and well over 100,000 miles combined. Same compression, same wear metals, same lifter health, same knock behavior. The only measurable difference between running premium and running regular in a 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 is $2,700 out of Felix's pocket for a fraction of a mile per gallon that GM's own spec sheet never promised him in the first place. I get asked this constantly in the shop, so let me explain why higher octane does not mean cleaner or more powerful unless the engine is actually asking for it. Octane rating has nothing to do with how much energy is in the fuel. It measures resistance to detonation, meaning how much the fuel can be compressed before it ignites on its own instead of igniting from the spark plug at the right moment. A low compression, naturally tuned engine like the 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 does not generate enough cylinder pressure to cause premature ignition on 87 octane. That's the whole reason GM calibrated it for regular fuel. Pouring premium into an engine that was never asking for it does not clean anything extra, does not add horsepower, and does not protect a single internal component because there was never a detonation risk to protect against in the first place. The engine's computer does not even reward you with more timing advance unless it detects the extra octane headroom and is specifically tuned to use it, and the stock 5.3-liter calibration is not. Where premium actually earns its keep is on the 6.2-liter, and I want to be clear about that because I don't want anyone thinking octane never matters. The 6.2-liter runs a higher compression ratio specifically to extract more power, and GM tuned that engine's timing maps to take advantage of 93 octane. Run 87 in a 6.2-liter, and the knock sensors will pull timing to protect the engine, which means you lose horsepower and torque you already paid for when you bought the truck. I've scanned 6.2-liter trucks running on regular gas and watched the knock retard numbers climb under load, especially towing in the summer heat. That is a real measurable performance loss. But that is a 6.2-liter problem, not a 5.3-liter problem, and dealership finance guys love blurring that line because premium fuel sales make the fuel companies happy and confused customers don't ask questions. If you found this useful, hit subscribe. I break down what your engine actually needs versus what marketing tells you it needs every single week, and it saved my customers real money over the years. I also want to address the carbon buildup argument because I hear it from customers all the time. The claim is that premium fuel burns cleaner and prevents carbon deposits on intake valves. Here's the actual mechanism. Carbon buildup on direct injection engines, which the 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 is, happens because fuel injectors spray directly into the cylinder instead of over the intake valves, so there's nothing washing carbon deposits off the back of those valves the way there was on older port-injected engines. That has nothing to do with octane rating and everything to do with injector location. Top-tier certified fuel, which includes most major brands regardless of octane grade, contains detergent additives that help slow this process. Both 87 and 93 from a top-tier station carry the same detergent package. Felix did not slow his carbon buildup by paying more. He just paid more. When I scoped both trucks' intake valves at 100,000 miles with a bore scope, the deposits were nearly identical, light to moderate on both, exactly what you'd expect from a direct injection V8 at that mileage, regardless of octane grade. One thing I checked that most people never think to ask about is spark plug wear. The theory floating around online is that premium fuel burns hotter and cleaner, which supposedly extends plug life. I pulled the original iridium plugs from both trucks at 100,000 miles and inspected the electrodes under magnification. Both sets showed the same light gray coloring you want to see, indicating a proper air-fuel mixture, and both had comparable electrode wear consistent with normal mileage. Octane grade had no measurable effect on plug condition in either engine. The plugs don't care what the pump sticker says. They care about the air-fuel ratio the ECU is commanding, and that ratio is calibrated the same way regardless of which grade you put in the tank, as long as the engine isn't experiencing knock. There is one more piece of this worth mentioning because it changes the math for a small group of owners. If you tow heavy loads regularly, especially in hot weather or at altitude, cylinder pressures and combustion temperatures climb. And that is a scenario where even a 5.3-liter can occasionally benefit from the extra knock resistance of a higher octane fuel, particularly on older Ecotec 3 generations, before GM revised the knock sensor calibration in later model years. I've seen a small number of 5.3-liter trucks running loaded up steep mountain grades in July show minor knock retard on 87 that disappeared on 89. That is a real edge case, and if you're one of those owners, mid-grade is a reasonable insurance policy. But that describes maybe 1 out of every 20 trucks I see, not the daily commuter sitting in traffic that most Silverado owners are actually driving. So here is my actual advice after pulling 6 years of data on 2 otherwise identical trucks. If you are driving a 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 Silverado for daily driving, light towing, and normal use, buy 87 octane and put the savings toward your next oil change or your next set of tires. GM engineered that engine around regular fuel, and the data backs it up completely. If you are driving the 6.2-liter, spend the extra money on 93 because that engine's tune is actually built to use it, and you're leaving real horsepower on the table otherwise. And if you regularly tow heavy in extreme heat or at high elevation with the 5.3-liter, mid-grade is a cheap way to buy yourself a little extra margin. Everything else is money spent on a myth that the fuel companies and a few well-meaning but misinformed mechanics have never bothered to correct. Ray's truck and Felix's truck sit in the same parking lot at the same job site every single morning. One owner is $2,700 richer after 6 years, and both trucks run exactly the same. That's not a guess. That's what happens when you pull the actual service records instead of listening to whatever the guy at the pump tells you while he's filling up his own truck. If you want to see which fuel additives are actually worth the money and which ones are just marketing poured into a bottle, I made a full video breaking that down. It's right here. 20-plus years of pulling wrenches has taught me that most of what gets sold at the pump has nothing to do with what your engine actually needs. Like this video if it helped. Subscribe for more honest advice dealerships and fuel companies won't give you. Drive safe. Take care of your truck and it will take care of you.